next minute. I'm very excited, extremely excited. Mixed emotions actually, because this is also our last session, and so I'm a bit sad, but I'm also excited. Sad because you know, I always looked forward to the next Saturday, and now that void is really going to be felt. But I'm excited because we have with us a brother of mine that I love dearly, that I admire dearly, that I look up to a lot, who will be taking us through today's session. I see it's already 10 past, so I think let us actually begin. There's about 15 of us here. I think that is a solid number for us to begin. So warm greetings to everyone. I hope, I trust that everyone is well. Jeanette Mukine, your hand is raised. Please unmute your mic. Let me know how I can be of assistance. Or text me. I see that your hand is raised. All right. Let me just do this quickly. Family, it's been an exciting journey. It's been an amazing journey leading up to this point. Obviously, you know that we have covered quite a lot of things in this program. We started on the 1st of August, and it has been quite a journey back to ourselves. You know, studying a lot about who we are. And, you know, I was reflecting about something that Ubaba Buntu said on the very first session that we had. And he was asking, what is African history? Why are we even bothered to study and know about our African history? And he posed 3 questions. Is it to investigate what happened yesterday? Or is it to understand what is happening today? Or is it to envision what can happen tomorrow? And he concluded to say that it is all 3. You know, some people don't understand, don't fathom why we go back into history. And there are people that don't see a relevance of why we go into history. But there's a saying that says we go forward best by going backward first. And I think it's very important for us to note that if history does not impact on our present life and does not equip us for the future, then studying history becomes useless, it becomes futile. So this has not been an exercise, you know, just to acquire some intellectual knowledge for intellectual pleasure. It has not been just for us to boast about what we know to one another, but we want to see our history changing and transforming us, in that, you know, we are inspired to go back to our former glory, you know, go back to who we once were, and be mighty again, great again, which is what today's session is actually geared at. We have done a lot of things, family. We have looked into, you know, the history of Africa. We've looked into some great kingdoms and great kings and queens. We've looked into certain civilizations of Africa. We spoke about we spoke about the colonization of Africa, went into, you know, how we were invaded, how we were brutalized, how we were robbed of our glory. And today we have to answer the question, where to from now? And having acquired all of this knowledge, which have angered some of us, which has frustrated some of us, how do we translate that anger into an agency? How do we take all of what we have acquired from this program so that we move forward? Because like we said, Black Warriors, if the things that we studied, the things that we acquired, the things that we learned are not going to frame our life moving forward, are not going to frame our agency and our disposition moving forward, then it has all been futile. Similarly to the Sankofa symbol that we all know, the bird that is going forward but looking back, picking up something, is exactly what we have been trying to do in this program. We are looking at ways of going forward, but also looking back and picking up on what has been lost along the way. Because acquiring all of this knowledge, acquiring our history, gives us a form of self-knowledge, which then gives us location, gives us meaning, gives us direction, gives us purpose, and makes us stand differently in a world that continues to suppress, in a world that continues to distort, in a world that continues to brutalize us, that continues to make us inferior. We then need to ask ourselves, how do we come out of all of that? And how do we go back to our place of brilliance, our place of glory? I want to, before I introduce our speaker, remind us of the words that were uttered by Umakas Gavi. He said, "Up, you mighty race, accomplish what you will." And that is exactly what we are trying to do here. Without further ado, family, allow me then to introduce our speaker, our final speaker for our Black Education Masterclass. He goes by the name, hey, people are logging in here, let me admit. He goes by the name Spesihle Shabalala, a very seasoned African voice, also known as Africa Wisdom. And Spesihle is very passionate about Mother Africa, and the passion has been since captured in 2 books. His first book was The Well of Wisdom, and his latest book is A Search for My Africa. Moreover, he has had several programs, symposiums, conferences, networking sessions with key African geniuses, with the attempt, obviously, to revolutionize the face of Africa. These, by the way, family, are just a few of the things that he has done and continues to do. And like I said, today's session is geared to inspire, to empower, to capacitate us to exude hope and courage to play our part to revolutionize Africa. Black family, let's put our hands together and help me welcome Spesihle Africa Wisdom Shabalala.
Aluta, Harambe.
Over to you, Mshengu.
Thank you so much, Mr. Msibi. Let me take this time to appreciate you, your wife as well, and your team. This has been a great initiative that you guys have been doing. We must applaud the stamina that you guys have placed into this program, because I think these kind of platforms are very important for us as Africans, not only to reflect on who we are on events, but to make this a continuous experience. Because more often, Africa is celebrated as an event. We are given what we call Africa Day in Africa, and we continue to treat our existence as a form of breakout from what we have assimilated to become. So before we get into the actual discussion, I just want to say you and the team have made a great sacrifice, planting a seed to us about who we are. Of course, as you said, these conversations have sparked anger, which is correct. We must be angry for having forgotten who we are. We cannot be proud of consistently ignoring who we are, trying to fly when we are supposed to swim, or trying to swim when we are supposed to fly. It is very important, my leader, that we get to the basis of who we are so that we stop attempting to do things that are not within the spec of our potential, let alone our purpose. So I really, really appreciate you for this kind of platform. I appreciate you bringing me in as well amongst the great voices that have been echoing. My job is easy, yet so difficult, because as you have said, you guys have been endeavoring on knowledge at its depth and its primary need. So to start off today's conversation, I've got a great task, one to close up, but also to actually give what we call ngesizulu umhlahlandlela, a way forward. Where to from here? I recognize myself a part of your movement. I recognize myself as part of your life and everyone else who's tuning in. And that is the point of departure that I want us to start off with today. To open up the conversation first on the topic that says Pan-Africanism, decoloniality, and power. But most significantly, which is what I'm going to focus on, the issues of modern ways of struggle. How do we apply ourselves to attain total liberation, which is what is of significance to us today, as it were, for our ancestors. I want to open up today by a quote by Ali Mazrou. Ali Mazrou says that, I will paraphrase it. He says that what we know of ourselves as Africans, what we know of others as Africans, is perhaps mostly influenced by Western knowledge. We stand in a place today of uncertainty of who we are, what we knew, and what we should become from our innate nature, completely because we have been violated, our history has been interrupted, and our domain has been invaded. And as things stand today as Africans, no one truly has the creed. No one can produce a document as to who we are and exactly what it is that we do. So I want to start off this conversation with that kind of humility to say, as I submit myself to you, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I'm not coming here as, of course, an oracle, probably ordained and anointed, but I'm here also as an inquisitive brother, just like all of us here. And so my posture here today will not be a lecture. My posture will be conversational. I'll submit my views and I'll allow for questions and contributions, because I believe that if we are going to come up with an African creed, keeping to the primary philosophical value of Ubuntu, we must not have one particular voice, which is one particular thing that I will submit when we deal with the next topic. We must have a collective voice, collective recognition with similar prestige of everyone if we are going to form what we call an African creed. I have followed through the lessons. I know that Pan-Africanism has been dealt with quite significantly. So I'm not going to focus on that today. I'm neither going to focus directly on what we call power, but I'm going to focus mostly on decoloniality, because as you will hear as I continue with the discourse, that decoloniality for me is one of the modes that we can resist. I appreciate the work done by Pan-African scholars, Pan-African politicians, Pan-African subscribers to organize us, but most significantly to also mobilize us. A lot of people in that era who subscribed to that particular understanding and form of inclination have helped us to look at ourselves not with shame. When Kwame Nkrumah spoke to African leaders at once, he alluded of the fact that it is upon us, it is our incumbent duty to make Africa what it was. One of his cries was that before the invaders came, his country, Ghana, was as massive as England, but their invasion consequently brought Ghana to its demise. And that is the point of departure, ladies and gentlemen, that I want to bring to us. A conversation that says, though we have lost an absolute sense of who we are, we still remain, as Marcus Garvey says, with a sense of greatness locked in our bones, locked in our spirits. We know that we were great, and definitely the prophetic words of Marcus Garvey shall come to pass. Africa, you were great, you shall be great again. These conversations are to provoke that innate spirit in us that should probe us and push us to that particular greatness. So let's focus on decoloniality as a form of modern revolt. Why is it important, ladies and gentlemen, that we focus on decoloniality? It is important that we focus on decoloniality because of how the mode of operation is in this modern era. The term, it's a buzzing term that we all should know, globalization. Globalization, I want to suggest today that it is a contestation of knowledge. It is a contestation of knowledge systems. When we were colonized over a table. A lot of African intellectuals, contemporary and ancient, they've always lamented over the fact that when Africa is discussed, we are not invited into the table. And this is true about the information, but also true also concerning issues of economic incentives, political incentives, and so on and so forth. The issue of capturing, which is so popular to South Africa, which is a context that I want to focus on today, that Africa has never been sovereign. Africa has never been independent from colonization. So what is it that we are trying to do here to regain a way forward? We are trying to remember the disjuncture, how we were not only defeated, but we were disconnected with ourselves, with our society, and with the world at large. So I want to propose that decoloniality actually puts an emphasis on the importance of knowledge systems. I will cite a number of scholars that I believe have done great work in trying to help us to understand what decoloniality is and how important it is. So, of course, globalization is a contest of information, a progression, a much more progression of colonization and capitalism. When that kind of wave faded, when capitalism was appropriated as an appropriated system that can be used by globes to grow their economies, to regulate their societies, the vocabulary changed from colonization to globalization. But as we realize, as we continue with the conversation, is that these are mere forms of subjugation to Africa. As I said, that globalization is merely a contestation of knowledge and knowledge systems. So Berlin 1884 to 85, when people said concerning us without our consent, in fact, at that point, our continent was going to be raped. It was going to be stripped of its sovereignty. It was going to be stripped of its right of being. None of us from that Berlin conference had a right to self-actualize, to self-determine, to dream without borders that are bogus and of course that are hidden. From that very meeting, Africa would surrender its identity, Africa would surrender its history, Africa would surrender its sense of knowledge and sense of being. And I want to suggest to you, ladies and gentlemen, that if we are going to rise, if we are going to conquer, decoloniality is a point of departure. Why is it that I say decoloniality is a point of departure? It is simple. Because as we go through history, we will realize that the Berlin 1884 to 85 conference had one primary cause, and that cause was disunity. When these colonial and these invaders, imperial invaders gathered, their objective was one, to cause disunity in Africa, that when we look at each other, when we look at ourselves, another must see each other better than the other, so we do not unite for a better cause. The loss of memory of who we are, the loss of memory of who we were, was to instill a sense of disunity and plunge within our culture a sense of elitism, a sense of pride that does not resonate with the collective mass. And that was an act of dehumanization. The greatest crime that has been done to us, one is the disunity of Africa that we struggle with because of the demarcation of borders. But most importantly, the greatest form of disunity is a disunity against self that was implanted on us through dehumanization. There is nothing that is so shameful, there is nothing that is so sinful than to be made to seem less human. These people would go on a voyage to put academic, false and pseudo-academic findings that renders Africans as less human, that suggests that colonizers are more smarter, they are more human than we are. That is the greatest crime in humanity, the dominance on another by another, the suggestion that they are sovereign, that they are supreme, that they can dictate and determine for us what our future should be. So I want you guys to consider these two particular terms. One, the disunity of Africa imposed on us through borders, but also the disconnect with self and with the society, which is actually dehumanization. It is a shame that I, as an African brother, can look across the border and look at a Zimbabwean brother and think he's less human, and look at a Nigerian brother and think he's less human. If we put it on the South African context, it is a shame that I can look at the tribal border, perhaps considering myself as a Zulu, as a better person, thinking that a Shangaan is less than me. Those kind of sentiments of using a less form of a human element on another, that is unnatural to us, but that is an imposition that Berlin 1818 had on us. And so before I continue further, I want us to actually look at what decoloniality means, at least as suggested by scholars. What does it mean to engage on the study of decoloniality? Scholars suggest that Africa went through a period of colonization when the settlers set foot on various African shores. Their agenda was to colonize, to set an empire and a colony. Those who colonized lived in an empire. An empire was to be admired, was to be assimilated to. They gave us what they thought was a prerequisite of what being a human is. I mean, we're speaking in their language today because they subjugated us, they alienated all our cultural resources, and they made themselves as a prominent model of what humanity or humanness is. So that entire voyage of taking over the domain of the African terrain, as you know now, because of all the study that have been done, was a process of colonization. Now, when Africa got its independence, that process is regarded by many scholars as decolonization. Now, scholars continue to make a further inquiry because within what scholars have tried to create a vocabulary for us to understand what has happened to us, where we are, and what must we do after the decolonization period. Of course, this term is used in academia and also in lay conversations as a driver of Africans gaining themselves again. But more specifically in academia, when academics, at least in the modern time, use the term decoloniality, they are saying that we are now dealing with the legacy that was left after the colonial era ended. So decoloniality would mean that we are against the legacy of what colonization gave us. What is the legacy of colonization? It is patriarchy, it is Christian centrism, it is military. A lot of African countries today, as we conversate, brothers and sisters, are invaded by heavy military invasion, military organizations, because of the resources that they may have. That is human resource, that is natural resource, and various other kinds of resources that the Lord has blessed us as Africans with. They are living in hostile and violent environments because that is a composite of what the colonial invasion brought to us. So patriarchy, military, modernization, and various other definitions come into mind when we think about coloniality, the legacy that was left by colonization. And it is an invisible institution that continues to exist amongst us without an objection, because we cannot point at what coloniality is, we cannot point at what these systems are, because we have accepted them, we have assimilated into them, and they are a part of us as Africans, because we too want to become a part of the global society. And I want to suggest, ladies and gentlemen, that our primary weapon, our primary point of departure in our struggle is knowledge. We must fight for who informs us and what knowledge systems are they using, because the determiner of knowledge controls our reality. The determiner of knowledge controls our reality. And so I want us to recap on perhaps why are we losing this fight. I want to suggest that, I mean, Christian and religious people will understand that they draw inspiration from what they call the spirit. The spirit is a significant composite for African people because we did not disseminate our information on papers. We do not entrust any other entity besides the human entity with knowledge. Because to be a knowledge bearer in the African context, you needed to be chosen for that particular role that you play. So you cannot be a knowledge bearer in medicine. In our culture, you cannot be Isangoma unless you are chosen by the gods. You cannot be a king unless you are chosen by the gods. So the dissemination of knowledge was given not only in line with verbal transition or verbal translation. We must not reduce our knowledge system to say it was verbal knowledge. We gave knowledge to those we met, we gave knowledge to those we saw. But it was as profound that you cannot access information to which you are not called for, because the knowledge that you get is not for commercial value. We did not acquire knowledge to commercialize it, but we acquired knowledge because of our interest in life. So every African person who is a knowledge bearer, the intent of that, it is because that particular person was supposed to serve humanity. Now, where we stand, we do not know how to administrate knowledge dissemination, knowledge impartation. We vary in terms of our knowledge dispositions. Other people, because of their religious affiliations, will say, no, we will not listen to political knowledge. Because of their political affiliation, they'll say, we will not listen to religious knowledge. Where we stand as Africans, we cannot come into a table of discourse, particularly because we do not agree on what actually drives the interest and the reference of what knowledge is about. And I want to suggest to you, ladies and gentlemen, all of you here, that if you are alive, all interests that you have and that you continue to develop are on the basis of how you have been divinely chosen, eternally appointed to advocate for a mission of the humanity and the wellness of life, not only for Africans. Africans are our focus, of course, as Sobukwe said, Africans are the most oppressed. And if we are serious about the revolution, ladies and gentlemen, we must advocate for the most oppressed people, the most subjugated. And so that is one of the considerations that I want us to bring our minds to, ladies and gentlemen. How is it that we frame knowledge? But most significantly, what does knowledge mean to us? Because as we frame knowledge, there are institutions, commercial and academic institutions, that want to say you are wrong, you are right. From as early as grade 0, when we get into the orientation of knowledge, we already know that your view, your instincts must be suppressed to what is already known. Africans have no confidence to stand and say, I believe that this could be done this way. Our creative antenna has been numbed by the academic system and the social system that says this is right, this is wrong. If you have not read this person, if you have not cited this person, your information cannot be credible. And I want to say that the African system, the way it was designed, it was supposed to be designed in a manner that you actually, because of the volitions, of the provocations, the spiritual inclinations that you bear, your interests in life that have nothing to do with financial incentives, because of how we lived in communion as Africa. People were interested in whatever knowledge systems they were interested in, primarily on the basis of what value does that add on developing and advancing life. So when invasion came, of course, it watered away all of those things. Information then was valued on the basis of its commercial value. I'll make a simple example. When you go to university, courses are not charged the same way. When you do courses in engineering, depending on the financial incentive and the economical disposition of that country at that time, you will realize that whatever skill, because capitalism, when it came, according to the articulations of Adam Smith, it advocated for specialization. And specialization demanded that a person should engage on a skill on the basis of mastering it. And the incentive then of that particular skill, it is not on the basis of how it advances the life system, but it is when we reward that particular skill, we reward it on the basis of its economical contribution. So from this particular system that we're coming from, where people are interfacing and interacting with knowledge for knowledge's sake, to the capitalistic transition and translation of information, where people are involved in acquiring information so that they subject themselves as employees, and then they get rewarded on the basis of what they know, that connected to the economical incentives, that then devalued how we interface and how we appreciate knowledge as Africans. Many regard who they are on the basis of what they've learned. People refer to themselves as doctors, people introduce themselves as engineers, people introduce themselves according to their employment titles. That is because knowledge is no longer important for its sake, ladies and gentlemen, but knowledge is important for what economical incentive it gives you. And that is one of the challenges, ladies and gentlemen, that we face today. So decoloniality advocates for the demise of the Western approach towards total liberation. As we stand here, ladies and gentlemen, I want to cite contextual factors before I move towards suggesting what then should be our modern modes of struggle. As we stand here in South Africa, because I believe that before we tackle the continental and the global revolt of Black people, South Africa has an incumbent duty because of how it's perceived in the continent, because of how it's perceived in the globe. South Africa has a duty to be a spearheader of the total liberation of Black people on shore and offshore. And part of this then, ladies and gentlemen, should be the confrontation of what Walter McNaughton says it is the global design. The global design infiltrated on what we call local histories. What we know for ourselves, as I said, Ali Mazrou's laments is perhaps mostly influenced by what we are taught, by what we read, by what is deemed correct and what is deemed wrong. I, as an African brother, cannot stand to recite a history that does not correlate with what is written about me. I'm not a champion of my life and my history, simply because people have institutionalized my being. People have institutionalized my experience. I have no opinion unless I am graded as assertive and as certified by people who are from external institutions. So now we must understand, ladies and gentlemen, that decoloniality helps us to look at ourselves from within who we are. Decoloniality helps us to deal with the disconnect from homes, because even roles in our domestic context are no longer dictated on the basis of our own culture. They are dictated by legal statutes, they are dictated by institutional statutes. The way you carry yourself as a man and as a woman is not intrinsic to your culture. You have to dig beyond yourself to know what the law says, to know what ideology say, to know what you should do as a father. And that kind of disconnect is very deep. If we cannot be who we are at our homes as led by our instincts, that means we continue to exist foreign from ourselves, from our family, trying to adapt to a model that is foreign to us. And that is why it is important for us to understand coloniality, that even though we have attained independence, but we still exist within a system that says you must read a book, you must read a law, you must read several other things that must tell you how to behave with yourself, in your community, with your family. So at home, we are not home with ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, because we do not know how to behave unless we read things that are prescribed to us. And also at work, you know, we have a lot of brilliant Black minds. We have a lot of smart Black people. But you will realize, ladies and gentlemen, that when you transition, for those of us who are able to create a cultural context that is domestically dominated by us, if you create a context of respect, if you create a context of recognition, a culture that is completely dominated by Ubuntu, recognition of elderlyism, recognition of how those who are beyond you deserve your respect. Immediately when you open your door, drive your car to the workplace, there is also another cultural disconnect, because the culture that dominates there is not our culture. The corporate culture is not the African culture. There is no respect given to a person on the sake of who he is. You are listened to in the corporate culture on the basis of your job title. You are listened to on the basis of the name that you bear. I dare everyone to give me experiences of how they've gone into the corporate or rather the commercial spaces, private sector, to present ideas that will later leverage Black people, that will spearhead community development in Black communities. Those ideas are struck off the roll because the corporate culture does not prioritize Black lives. It does not prioritize African development. And that is a further application of the disconnect that exists in the corporate. But one of the most frustrating thing is how the interactive culture frustrates the actual workers, because when you get there as an African brother, your own elders will ridiculously call you mlungu, because as a young person you have rose on the grid and now you are in charge. They will call you mlungu to dismiss you. And you find that a lot of Black managers, a lot of Black executives cannot get work done simply because we have no respect, we have no regard for one another. And that particular disconnect continues to delay what we regard as Black excellence. And we continue to gloat over, I'm the first Black to do this, I'm the first Black to do that. It shouldn't be a coincidence that Blackness has a form of excellence. But because of the corporate culture, we must pride ourselves when Blackness succeeds. We must pride ourselves when Blackness seemingly attains that which is beyond itself. It is natural for us, ladies and gentlemen, to succeed. We have proven beyond the grid. We express ourselves articulately in their language. We have learned their language. We have learned their culture. But they continue to be backward where we are concerned. They cannot understand our personhood. They cannot understand our humanity. And I must submit, therefore, then, because of that, ladies and gentlemen, we are older. We are the elders of the world. But if we continue to subscribe to their forms of organization, forms of thinking, which I name them systems of the legacy of coloniality, we will never rise above the grid. In school, we have a big contention with school. You teach your children to abstain, and in their syllabus, they teach them to have safe sex. As a parent, you are ridiculed by your child for not promoting condoms, for not promoting safe sex. The child looks at you as a backdated thinker, thinking that you are not aware of these things because they are prescribed in a curriculum. So that kind of disconnect, when you release your child to school, you say, focus on school, focus on the things that they tell you. That kind of psychological positioning of school makes our children to disregard the things that we teach them at home. So it is a disregard from a home context domestically. If we strive to create a culture to say, yeah, we're respectful, we respect elders, when we release ourselves to go to the corporate, we are already in a disconnect. When we release our children from home to school, that is probably from 8 to 2. We are in 8 to 4, 6 at most. Some of us work overtime, work throughout the day. We are in a system that consistently devalues us. When we come back, we are against strangers. You don't know what your child knows. Your child does not know what you know. We come back to a cultural setting of knowledge that we are not in control for. So our greatest fight, ladies and gentlemen, I want to emphasize this and prove it beyond reasonable doubt. It is the fight of knowledge and knowledge systems. Most importantly, what angers me the most, this really angers me, it is the influence of coloniality on social culture. You know, when you go to, hypothetically, a simple thing like a garage to pour petrol for those of us with cars who are lucky, who have pushed to that grid. You pour your petrol there to an African brother, and then the next thing you hear a salutation saying, Mlungu. Yeah, Mlungu Mbunjan. It is something that we have accepted. It is something that we live amongst. And it is something that we should frown upon as a culture. Because as Black people, we still don't see it as a norm for someone to have resources, for someone to be financed but still be your brother. When I make it in the financial grid, I deserve some form of respect. I deserve some form of recognition. And it comes to an insultive title, Mlungu. It angers me, ladies and gentlemen, that we continue to use this particular thing when we interact with people who we think are economically less than us. How can we accept, ladies and gentlemen, that because I have money, I can be called Mlungu? So our social culture too is infiltrated by an aspiration to what we feel is a figure of opulence. So we have been disconnected by a knowledge system that continues to exist within us institutionally and culturally that makes it very difficult for us to reconcile with ourselves. So what is, again, decoloniality? Decoloniality is a weapon of revolt. By revolt, what do we mean? Revolt for me, it is the disorderly triumph of those who were formerly oppressed. Because you cannot triumph, you cannot have a revolution if you operate within the orders of an oppressive system. Anarchy is very necessary, but anarchy does not translate to violence always. Anarchy means rebelling the order that suppresses you, rebelling the order that reduces you. And so decoloniality arms us with weapons to rebel against the order of the day. Because when you advocate for being who you are, for being seen as a person outside of what is prescribed by the colonial order, by virtue of doing that, you become an anarchist. By virtue of doing that, you become an active participant in revolution. You don't have to join a political party. You don't have to speak a particular jargon or vocabulary. By saying, I refuse to not be recognized as a human in my own country. I refuse not to be recognized as a human being in this entire world. When we insist, ladies and gentlemen, on being seen as human, on the virtue of our existence, it is there that we are on our way for decoloniality, but most importantly for what I call revolution. So then, pertinent then, ladies and gentlemen, to our conversation is, how do we guide knowledge formulation? As Sandile said, there's been a lot that has been said. There's been a lot that continues to be said. But what is pertinent is we need to derive models of guiding our knowledge system or our knowledge base. Now, it is important for me, with everyone here, brothers and sisters, I did say, I'm not submitting myself as an oracle. I don't think I have knowledge that is divine coming from somewhere. Everything that I've come to know is because of conversation with brothers and sisters. It's because of interfacing with knowledge on books and other information bases. There's nothing divine about being knowledgeable. And that's one thing that we must emphasize on. Knowledge must not be presented as a prerequisite of elites. It is a prerequisite of Africans. Wherever you occupy, you must occupy as a knowledgeable person. And so my suggestion would be that we must see ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, all of us gathered here, we must see ourselves as deliberate historical participants that are people causing an end that they've envisaged. It is Fanon who says every generation, every single generation must pick its course and then decide on whether to betray or adhere to that cause. That is so important, ladies and gentlemen. History is a most important point of departure, but history is not a distant reality. History is what we are living now, because today is the future of yesterday, and tomorrow is the future of today. As we are living now, we are living on an absolute historical moment. We are not disconnected either with today or tomorrow. As I'm talking to you now, we are historical propagators. We are contributing to what we are and what we shall be. So I want to suggest that when we sing about Sobukwe, when we sing about Steve Biko, we must not neglect singing about those amongst us who do great things. We must not see brilliance as a distant element from us. You know, these things that Arise Black Child is doing. We must sing of those things. I take you to task leadership, Sandile. You must form songs because not everyone has the stamina to sit through these discourses. But when we start to compose songs, when we start to put our convictions into songs, singing about you as a mere human being, we then realize that, no, man, this thing of being revolutionary, it is not something of Kriza and Steve Biko and Nelson Mandela and all our distant heroes. But this thing is present amongst us. Their spirit is living in you. That's why I was fighting with us to say, though we do not have history documented in books, but we carry the spirit in us. We carry the spirit of those who lived before us. Of course, that can be an abomination for Christian listeners, but I want to anger them. I want to anger myself as a Christian to say that if we will not realize as Africans that there's a sense of continuity in who I am, that I can carry aspirations, I can carry a desire to fight for the total liberation of people I've never met, of people that I've never seen. I've never seen Steve Biko, but the way my bones resonate with that man, I know, Sandy, that Marcus Garvey, you know, shakes your bones. That kind of connection is spiritual. It is connecting beyond the grave. It is connecting beyond time. And so our interpretation must be one that we are not too distant from history. History is close to us. It is so tangible. We carry those who lived before us with us because they are the ones that are teaching us the way. So we must not be shy of reconciling ourselves to those who have lived before us. If we are serious about forming coherent history, the actions that you guys are doing as an organization must not be a new thing. We must not see ourselves as trailblazers, founders, you know, these things that we say. Those are ridiculous things. We must see ourselves as part of the historical advocacy of the total liberation of our people, of the resuscitation of the humanness in us. We want to see ourselves alive as we were before we were colonized. So as part of reconnecting and reforming information, we don't need to know what our ancient fathers were saying to each other. We know it because of who we are. We feel it in our bellies. We can hear when you are speaking something that is of ancient importance. In fact, in the Zulu language, we do understand when we interface with the knowledge that is of value. That's why we form proverbs. That's why we form poems. Those things, that's why we form songs. You know, those cultural composites, ladies and gentlemen, are very important. That is why academics, musicians, and other cultural workers must see themselves as one block. No one must look at himself as a different advocate. The person who sings is so important for you because you must influence the content they're singing about. The person who's painting a picture, Urasta, it is very important that we conscientize those people that as they depict pictures, when he's asked, but why are you giving an abstract? And if he would perhaps say, if I was getting to his mind and I have an opportunity to comment on that, I say, you know, who we are has been deformed. No one cares about who we are unless we are portrayed according to the master's image. And so I draw my people the way that they are seen. They are disfigured. They are not recognized, but they are historical figures that are remembered. I would appreciate that particular kind of analysis from Rust. I mean, they have people like Picasso, who's an abstract artist, who has something to say. But when we look at our people, when we look at Rasta, we look at someone, Rasta is coming, Rasta is joking, because we do not invest in coherence, ladies and gentlemen, in collectivity. We want to be celebrities, we want to be allies, we want to be famous, he says the best African knowledge, what, those things won't assist us. And so how do we revolt? The first thing is we must reckon ourselves as part of those who are our predecessors. We must see ourselves as in a moment that is so critical in history that me spending my time with you here, ladies and gentlemen, is not because I want to accumulate fame, not because I don't have anything to do, but it is because I have recognized myself, not because of any prestige, but because of the understanding of the importance of life, that I am important. I'm an important participator in history. When my children look at my life, when those who are going to come after me look at my life, they must find tools, stones that connect them to what was significant to me. So we gather here, ladies and gentlemen, not necessarily to entertain each other, not necessarily to prove that we are better or different blacks, but we gather here because we have a generational mission to say the time is now. Revolution is here. Revolution is now. We, where we are in a ripe moment to revolt. What do I mean about that? You know, for a long time, people have been dismissing this kind of conversation. They're saying, no, we are a rainbow nation. You guys are coming with hate speech. You guys are stuck in the past. South Africa has changed. South Africa has opportunities. And that is a blatant lie. South Africa has no opportunity. Dehumanization still stares us in the face. Where I stay, they are putting this Wi-Fi things that I don't even know what they are for. But the people digging there are not white people. The people who are doing dehumanizing jobs are not white people. In fact, it is still a shock in our country when we see white people in dehumanizing positions. What does that mean? It means the status quo has not changed, ladies and gentlemen. When you go to a restaurant, what person is serving you there? What incentives are those people getting? Dehumanizing jobs are still having blackness as their face. And we cannot say we are free. We cannot postpone these conversations and say, no, we are free. You have an opportunity to go to school. What school? What curriculum? Who is it designed for? Who is being funded to get the best opportunities? We fight to get to university. We go there with hungry stomachs. You know, we still have to interact with a language that's not our own. If you are not eloquent in English, you are frowned upon by your fellow black people. So these spaces that are meant to develop us to become better human, they too continue to dehumanize us. Who is working as a tiller? Who is working throughout the night to be paid 500 rand? Those are black people. And we cannot continue to postpone these conversations and say, South Africa is alive with new possibilities. What new possibilities? For who? Because the majority cannot access those possibilities. I dare you, if you have been in the engineering space, guys are complaining. They come with honors, they come with degrees, but they are given a white boy to be their master. On the basis of what? On the basis of race. There's still a contention on the basis of who earns the best, not on the basis of your knowledge system, not on the basis of your education or experience, but on the basis of your race. Race still remains a critical factor in how you express and experience yourself in this country. South Africa has a duty, ladies and gentlemen, to revolt. And if we continue to postpone these kind of conversations because they are angering, they are backward, and they are for people who just want attention, that is not correct. And I want to argue further. We are privileged because remember, I'm saying we must be able to reckon ourselves as historic actors. We must see ourselves as people who are contributing to a historical moment. Now, I want to give, for those who are still doubting, who are saying, no, South Africa has changed. We have been confronted in the past 2 years. I'm not going to even count the furthest time. In the past 2 years, we have been confronted by white arrogance as black people. For theological fellows, there's a famous pastor, I'm going to name his name because he was public about what we said. We must not respect such kind of people. We must arrogantly confront them. In fact, it is humility to even confront them in this way when they continue to speak things that are shameful to us. And there's a pastor called Engenas. He preaches when he presents himself, you can see which cultural orientation he comes from. And that is so interesting for me. Because when we look at our pastors, when we look at our religious leaders, we cannot see their cultural orientation. And so we know that as priests, they are going to be politically correct and claiming to be theologically accurate. Because there's a difference between theological accuracy and political correctness. And most of our priests, prophets, pastors, apostles, they're actually posing with this politically correctness that is masquerading as theological accuracy because of their cowardice. Their people are hungry. Their people are jobless. Their people are living in shameless conditions. They're living in shacks. But none of them is brave enough to say, this is not what, if they really believe in the gospel, God has called us for. How can we continue to live as subhuman in a country that that belongs to us, with a God that is for us. So we must question that. So this man, Enginus, he raises a comment that angered a lot of people. It's not a surprise to me. It has been a Boer inclination for a long time. When they took the land, they took it on the theological basis that they are the people of God and the land belongs to them. It's not a new thing. So it was shocking for me when people were outraged and they were angered. How could this man of God that we have supported in a movie, Sunday, we watched it in university, some of us, potatoes, faith like potatoes. We love this man, you know. We looked up to him. We believed he was one of us. But the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, we woke up to a statement where he disconnected himself from us. So that's a religious fraternity. Religious people have been confronted by white arrogance. They have been angered. They cannot dismiss these conversations again. But also, another reality, there are these people who want to say to us, we must affiliate with politicians and political organizations because we cannot advocate outside. You must be mass-based. But if you look at what is happening now, the reality is these justice systems are being monopolized and used to continue to degrade and dehumanize Black leaders. I'm not proud, I must say, of the arrest of political leaders who are said to be corrupt by the Hawks. I see people going around all excited saying, oh, great, the country is not cleaning up anything. These institutions are continued to be politicized. These institutions are continued to be used to fight for factional battles. And I want to suggest, ladies and gentlemen, not even politicians can say we are angry because they too have failed us. We cannot join their organization because their organization is, they are saying we are going to cleanse ourselves. We are going to use these institutions that we are in charge for to cleanse ourselves from corruption. I want to say that even political representation has failed us. We speak of corruption and we arrest ourselves, but we continue to neglect the corruption that stares us on the face, where we have corporate companies. I dare you to go to communities where there are big mining corporates. They are not even adhering to this CSI responsibility. There's no community injection. There are developments of infrastructure that are taking coal, that are taking gold, that are taking a lot of resources from poor community to be refined for the betterment and the enrichment of other people. And this is happening under the watch of political leaders. And we must be quiet and join the ANC and join the DA and join all these other political formations which do not continue to show a sense of political will to confront these things. So I'm not happy when I see people arrested for corruption. Corruption is everywhere. We know that. We don't want you to arrest people. We want you to change the system. We want you to enable people to move from the bottom to the greed of economical well-being. Don't arrest hungry people. What are you trying to say? They are already hungry. They are stealing because they are hungry. And you are stealing as well, you who are arresting them. So it's not impressive. Politicians are not on our side. We can continue to vote. We continue to vote. But ladies and gentlemen, those people are not for us. So politicians must not stop us from these conversations. These platforms, Sandile, I'm not paid. You are not paying me for these views. I'm not thinking, hey, what constitution am I speaking? No, I'm expressing my views. And these are the kind of platforms we want. Platforms where truth is truth, on the basis of truth, not on the basis of affiliation. So religious fellows cannot stop us. I could go on and on about religious people. The fact that you know, there's a white pastor who has a big church with Black people. There's not Black pastor who has a big affiliation of white people. What does that say to us? We must think about these things. But religious people cannot stop us from these conversations. Political people, they cannot stop us from these conversations. But most significantly, recently, I was so happy when I saw Boer people going to a police station to strike. That was the last demonstration to us that, ladies and gentlemen, we have no country. We have a country that is watching over Black people and managing Black anger. If you can try and just pick up a stone and hit Total, just Total, not even a government institution, Total or Mercedes or Edgar's, if you can just try that, you see the anger and the might of this country. You see how strong our legal system is. But these fellows went into a police station. That van that they rolled, it is a military van. It's not this visible police van. It is a military van. So what these people are saying to us is that their bodies are much more militant than the weaponry this state has. And that is a state that we exist in, a state that has weaponry that cannot defend itself against white bodies. That was the last insult on us. So the people that say, when we confront racial issues, we are racist, they don't understand how being black, as Steve Biko said, it is a consistent threat. I cannot, you know, when you stay in the pubs, you can walk at 12 to the garage. At 12, no one will mug you. You are doing while you're in the pubs, you know. But I dare you to try to do that in the locations. What does that tell us? It tells us that the way that societies, communities are configured, the prioritization of safety is on the basis of your skin color and your proximity to wealth. Because we have black people, of course, who then move the economical grid because of education. They can afford to stay in suburbs and they want to insult us and they say, no, but you are fighting for nothing. What is nothing? Our sisters are being killed. Our mothers are being killed. Our brothers are being killed. Our brothers are being jailed. There's consistent violence. Have you seen the alcohol culture in the townships? People go there to celebrate nothing, to numb their pain from 6 to 6 drinking because they've got nothing to do. So we cannot pretend as if the way black people are behaving is on the basis of their inclination. We are not stupid people. It is the legacy of coloniality. And I'm saying it is now time for us to confront that. Let me also give a more detailed framework, Sandile, on what recent forms of revolt are, and then I'll open for question. I said, I want us to conversate because it's a finale. I believe you guys have a lot of information that you want to put across. Let's discuss that before we go to the last topic. Now, I said to us, I would love to introduce us to scholars because part of what I said is important is to reconcile ourselves with historical heroes, that we must say Steve Bantu Biko is a hero, Sandile Msibi is a hero, because when we do that, we create for the coming generation a picture of saying, you don't have to be special to focus on things that matter. You don't have to be divine to focus on things that matter. The people around you are the same people like the people before you. I'm going to compose a song for you, Sandy. You know, I must give you guys a song. You know, I must sing about you in the same way that we sing about Biko, in the same way that we sing about Sobukwe. We must have songs of the people we regard as a revolutionary. And we must not shy away of saying, guys, we are as they were. It's not a sign of arrogance. It's a sign of understanding your historical present and futuristic duty. Because if we are going to continue to admire them that have passed, we will never rise up in their spirit to be them that will be admired tomorrow. So in correcting and rebuilding a knowledge-based system, what do? We must reconcile ourselves with those who they have tried to kill. Biko must continue to live. Sobukwe must continue to have a voice. We must continue to apply ourselves in the similar way that they have, so that they know that they did not kill Solomon Mahlangu, but he continues to live as a dominant tree. So what did they do to us to continue to maintain this legacy? I've already said that their legacy is hierarchized, it is patriarchal, it is sexist, it is Christocentric, it is capitalistic, it is military-based, it is colonial, imperial, and a modern form of civilization. They insult us, they say we were barbaric people. But these are the characterization of what, when we fight, we are fighting a system that has all these composites. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you now that white supremacists will want to say, no, colonization was better. It increased the development capital of the world. But they will not want to take credit for hierarchization. They will not want to take credit for patriarchal interactions, sexism. They won't want to take credit for capitalistic interactions. So if they say, fine, if we accept that colonization developed us, we are wearing suits, great, but they must also take credit for making humanity backward. And that is what I suggest as a point of departure in a conversation with them. That is what we must put to them, that the legacy we are fighting against is not a cause of what we have done. In fact, we were suspended in contributing in what the modern reality looks like. We are now subjected to a reality completely built on the back of their shoulders, although with the might of our hands. And so, ladies and gentlemen, these people introduce things like there's a theorist called Roslow. They said that there's what we call modernization theory. They say that by emulation of the developed countries, the underdeveloped countries stand a chance of being developed without understanding the contextual dynamics that exist in the ground of those who are underdeveloped. And so they imposed again themselves as a sovereign element. Dehumanization to us, ladies and gentlemen, it is an element of stripping a people of their sovereignty. It is stripping a people of self-determination. They continued to appropriate that, but this time through academia, through policies. And they came up with things like modernization theory, a guide to what underdeveloped countries can do to be developed. And those kind of thinking continue to exist with us. Well, modernization theory is an earlier, the 1980s, it's an earlier form of thinking. But they continued after the independence of Africa. They gave us things like structural adjustment programs. Those things also did not look at our contextual realities. They did not look at our social realities. Africa continues to be thought for and not to think for itself. We are still being discussed in a table where we are not invited to. And so I want to say this to everyone, that this policy conversation, in fact, I went to this land policy conversation. To my disappointment, I saw few educated people there, because you know why you guys were not there. You educated people who are here now who can afford data. Because when they have these conversations, it's like on a Tuesday, you guys are working. The people who are representing you there are politicized. They want to come there and read a political statement by their political party. This is going to be politicized. And we are not going to hear a view from business people who are not getting business space because of how land is inaccessible. We are not going to hear a view of young people who are working, who are engineers, who want to become consultant, but they don't have land. And so I want to suggest that these policy elements in our society where when we fight, they say, no, but this is a policy, there was a white paper, there was a green paper, there was public consultation. Who is being consulted? Who is raising views? Are we the people who are truly concerned and affected by these things, the ones that are raising the views? Definitely not. It is the least of us amongst our community that is being called into these particular mass meetings to appropriate a view from us. So I want us to be aware how the society is moving in terms of knowledge power systems. Because of these policy frameworks, we cannot revolt and rebel in our communities. So 3 things as I conclude. How do we revolt? The first thing, we must realize the power of knowledge in terms of policy value. The power of knowledge in terms of policy value. Every Black person who is educated must invest in ensuring that the policy direction of the country is going towards the direction that they envisage. We cannot keep on forming organizations and NPOs that are operating on charity. Charity will not rescue us. Charity will not save us. Because if you look at NPOs of white people, these NPOs are headed by doctors, researchers. They have views on policies. They have views on the political climate. That is their interest, policy. Because without policy, you don't have the institutional protection against the state administration. When we protest, for instance, we become victims of the state because we don't know policy. We are not covered by policy. Our advocacy is outside of policy provision. So the first thing, Black people outside of their work must take interest in policy. Policy at your work. What policies are influencing your workplace, what policies are influencing your company, you must resist the first thing if we want to advocate for revolution within the system. Then the second thing, okay, the second thing that we can do, okay, a minute, my son wants to to be assisted. I'm coming. Can you guys be singing something as I attend to this responsibility?
No issue, Msheng, no issue, Msheng. Let's take a short minute break. Not a problem.
Yes, leadership. I'm back. I'm sorry, but I don't apologize. We must raise our children. They must see these things. So yeah. So the first form of revolt I want to suggest to us is that we must be interested in policy, especially for educated Black people. It is a shame for policy to be passed in your company without you being consulted, for policy to be passed in your country without you raising your voice, for consultations to happen in your community without you saying, I'm going to go on a sick leave and I'm going to attend the Section 25 discourse. I want to raise my voice there. That is where we start. If for those who are educated, that is where we must start. Where you are working, where the country that you are in, your church policies. You must be interested in your church policies, your community policies, your complex policies. I mean, in complexes you have noise policies. They were drafted a long time ago. You are Black people now. You are noisy. You invite us there Sunday. We can't even have a discourse. We would shouting. No, the noise police. They knock there those securities, Black securities, saying, no, we must be quiet. How can we be quiet? We are Black people. We must have a consideration of how we are. So we must be interested in policies. Policies must reflect our character traits. They must reflect our culture. We want to come there and bribe. We want to come there and slaughter a cow. There in that complex, yeah, because that is our culture. So we can't exist in spaces that are white dominated because they are going to take out a document that is called a policy as though that thing cannot change. So the first form of revolt, if we are serious as modern Black people, we must revolt through policies. We must revolt through policies. But another thing that I've suggested, and I want to strongly hinge on it, and I want to make a beautiful display as I close, and then I'm going to suggest another one when we say the vision of Africa, now planning and doing it our way. And then I'm going to just be solution-based so that we interact, and I also get to learn from the panel of everyone who's listening here. The last thing that I've been strongly hinging on, ladies and gentlemen, is the issue of collectivism, a collective history, a faceless revolution, a revolution that is dispositioned from Sobukwe. It is very sad that even today we can't find a voice clip of Sobukwe because his existence is almost like a faceless form of existence. Black consciousness understood this. I love Biko for this particular reason. The Black consciousness group did not put emphasis on a person, but they placed emphasis on ideology. When ideology leads, ideology will never die. But if leaders, if propagators, generals, commanders are the ones leading, when those who are regarded as brave and brilliant amongst us die, threatening and intimidation hits us all. That is why it was important during the apartheid era for the struggle to be branded with leaders. The struggle had no leaders. People were oppressed everywhere. They were arrested everywhere. It was just the violation of why people say, Mandela is your leader, Sobukwe is your leader, Biko is your leader, so that what they do to them can scare us not to do what they did, because what is done to them will be done to us. And so how do we revolt? We must revolt through faceless revolution. I said to us, Ladies and gentlemen, we are a privileged generation in South Africa. We have had faceless moments of revolt. We have Marikana, we have fees must fall. Both parents and children have said in this country, we cannot breathe. We will not wait for a political messiah to revolt. Young people throughout from 2014 right through 2016 to 2018, they said, we are tired of being in spaces that do not reflect us. We are tired of information, education that is being sold to us at a price that we can't afford. We are tired of being excluded, although we are present in these institutions. We want these institutions not only to adjust their fees, because we must not reduce fees must fall to just being about money, but we want these spaces to be decolonized. We want this information to be decolonized, and that's what I'm saying. All institutions present in these grounds must experience decoloniality. The information there must demonstrate the pride and the intelligence of the people who participate in acquiring it. It must be accessible through fees. It must be accessible through theoretical frameworks. We want to read about these things that we say here. Universities cannot continue to exist as white elephants. They must be able to adjust their curriculums to the lived experiences of Black people. Because if they educate us to work in white firms are not designed to absorb masses. White people are saying, we don't have jobs for you. There are a lot of educated people who cannot work. Why? Because academic institutions are not training people to go back into their communities to become entrepreneurs. So we want our educated people to be educated in line with their lived experiences so that their academic information can be of value to us. We are tired of people who are coming back with degrees to cry with us. What is the point of being educated? I mean, you're an engineer, open a shop, let's fix something, fix anything. You are a teacher, you want to go teach in a school, open your own school. For crying out loud, our brothers from other countries have shown us. We are taking our kids to their schools because we are here. We want to be employed. The government won't do nothing. You are the government. It's a democratic state, for crying out loud. So universities must decolonize. What is decolonization? It is teaching your children that the knowledge we are teaching you is sufficient. Go there, change the township. Go there, be a better person. When I elaborate further on that, as we come back to deal with the plan and the vision. But we need to change our historical and institutional interaction. We must see ourselves as people who are in a moment to change things. A faceless revolution epitomized by fees must fall. Faceless revolution epitomized by Marikana. Our parents said, no, but we cannot continue to make people billionaires, to make multinationals entities of billions, but we continue to earn not even a salary that can afford us a living. We continue to toil for people who are not even part of the suite. People die underground. People die. They die. They get sick. People get sick. They are not even remunerated for all this work that they do. So both our parents and our brothers and sisters, the young people in fees must fall, engaged on a faceless revolution. It is not impossible. I'll then later, Sandile, explain how we take it from a faceless revolution into develop a vision and a plan of how we revolt. Let's take a break and conversate.
Thank you very much, leadership. You've said so much. I'm even failing to keep up with taking notes here. But luckily for everyone, we are streaming this on Facebook as well. So you can always go back. It will be available even afterwards. You can go back to our page. You can, something like this, you have to watch it over and over and over again until it is assimilated into your mind. I want to speak, reflect on what has been said. But there's 20 of us here, family. Let us make our inputs known. Please reflect on what has been said thus far. Ask questions like we normally do. Feel free to unmute your mic, say what you want to say, ask what you want to ask. Kwame, Kwame, I see your hand is raised. You are free to speak.
Yes. I want to thank the speaker. It has been very insightful, and he spoke with a lot of courage. My name is Kwame Gonza. I'm in Ghana, but I come from East Africa. I've been in Ghana for the last 8 years, and happenings all over the continent. And what I see actually is that there is no difference in what is happening in South Africa or what is happening in Kenya or what is happening in Ghana, which was brought and imposed on the Africans, whereby our capital has been, for example, if you go to Uganda, the financial institution there, which is the biggest, is called the Stanbic Bank. But Stanbic Bank, when you trace its roots, even though they tell you that it is from South Africa, it is not actually from South Africa. Stanbic Bank, as an institution, is from in the United Kingdom.
Mr. Kwame, your line is breaking.
Hello, can you hear me, please?
Can you hear me? I'm saying your line is really bad. We are struggling to hear or follow what you are saying. It keeps breaking. You maybe just want to move around and find a better location to speak from. Family, is there anyone else while we wait for? Yes, Sis Noktula, I do see you. You are free to speak.
Siyabonga kakhulu. So much has been said, all of which is life-giving. And I don't know where to begin. And I would like to say that even our notion of time needs to be decolonized. Sometimes it's very disheartening when we as Black people, when we are inspired and see Fila Intisego, then we are always told time is up. It happens everywhere. It happens all the time, as though we are just people of the stomach, as though this time that we are living by is our time. So sometimes we need to allow a dispensation in which we give more respect to these issues than time allows us. We have been gifted uniquely in these 10 weeks. I'm sorry that I missed last week. I had to go home. But Babu Shabalala, so many things that I can say. You've provoked me in ways that I needed to be provoked. One of the things that you said was that disunity is not natural to us. And for me, that is a big statement. For me, it answers questions that I walk by, that I walk with every day. And I hope you will allow me to plagiarize you, for work that I'm doing. But more than that, you also told us, Ogoti, Adam Smith is the one who told us about these specializations that we have as disciplines in the university, which makes me now think as well, when I go back to some of your closing statements where you were agitating for faceless movement, only because you are saying we should not exceptionalize what we ought to be doing anyway, because what we do when we revolt is something that is necessary, and it's something that was begun long ago, and by people who are similar to us, which leads me to this question that I have always had. What then is your response to the question, Yoguti, if we are to borrow from an Afrocentric point of view, do we have this hierarchy of being? Do we have this notion that other people are more equal than others? Some are born leaders, some are not born leaders. Or do we, in the spirit of always trying to reconcile people, say that everyone is gifted uniquely and there is no hierarchy of gifts? So I think that's what I wanted to ask, not because so much of the lecture, but because these are questions that I always work with. And maybe as a final salvo, I will ask a question. What does it mean then when we succeed in these places that are alien to us? For me, again, that poses a big dissonance. To say that when we succeed in these places, what does it say about us? Does it say we've become so much like our colonizers that we can no longer dream outside of this frame that we were given? I hope I made sense, but those are questions that I have. Thank you very much. And greetings, everyone, greetings.
Sinokuthula siyabonga kakhulu for that input, for those reflections. I think our lecturer was disconnected because of network issues, I assume. But I will try and call him to see if everything is well with him. We can continue reflecting, we can continue asking questions. I am trying to write questions as we go so that when he comes back, we can try to just summarize. Please feel free to unmute your mic. Feel free to also speak or ask any question while I try and get hold of Ubab Shabalala for us. Mr. Kwame, because you broke, I'm saying because your line broke the last time, you can attempt to speak again. Let's see if it's all good now.
Yes, I'm back. I had a network. What I was saying is that we have had a colonization of the continent, and I would like to thank the speaker. He made really very valid points. I was saying that I'm from East Africa. I've been staying in West Africa for some time now, but I really have not seen a difference in how our people are living, whereby we have been colonized by from the West. So we push it United Africa, because if you look at the year 1963, we had a conference which was supposed to lead to the formation of the United Africa. And there were some warnings which were sounded by the then Ghanaian president, who was called Kwame Nkrumah. And you can see that he warned that the failure to heed to the advice which he was giving is going to cause a lot of problems. Disintegration, and so this has gone on, whereby if you Ghana, if you come to Ghana, the financial institutions are foreign. If you go to Uganda, the financial institutions which have conquered the capital there are foreign. If you go to South Africa, the same. So we are not in isolation. There is this tactical way which Western imperialism has used to divide us. If you look at things like xenophobia, you can see that these are strategically, planned things. So we need to we agree that these problems are consistent all over the continent. Then we have to agree that this is a responsibility which we have to take on and create new systems, because the current systems are not working for us and they are not from us. So that is just something which I wanted to throw in there, that we need to take the responsibility. We need to agree whenever we are speaking of South Africa or Ghana, we need to speak continent and add our voices to my contribution, which I wanted to make.
Thank you, Mr. Kwame. Thank you, Mr. Kwame Ngonza, all the way from Ghana. Thank you so much, sir. I still didn't hear you quite clearly. You were breaking at some points, but thank you for that input. There was someone else who unmuted and wanted to say something. I forgot who it was, but feel free to just unmute your mic and speak. I am getting our lecturer back. Just some network issues, but he'll be joining us again soon. Let's continue to converse. Let's continue to make reflections, inputs, questions. Nwako, I hope I'm saying it correctly. I see your mic is muted. Do you want to speak?
Yes, yes. Am I audible enough?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible enough? I've been having network problems this side.
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Oh, yes. I greet you all in the name
No, your line is very bad, leadership. Mr. Nwako, we can't hear anything that you're saying. Your line is very bad. Family, is it just me who's struggling, or you also cannot hear?
being not of
Mr. Nwako, we cannot hear you.
I'm not
We also cannot.
articulate in speech.
Family, I had to mute our brother there because his line is terribly, terribly bad. We can get someone else. Hopefully his line will get better and then he'll come back to us. If there's anyone else that has a reflection, an input, a question, please feel free.
Well, thank you guys for having me. My name is Komoto. Yeah, well, what an interesting topic discussion regarding the problems that we have in Africa. I mean, even our guys in Ghana have already just told us about what's happening in Uganda and other African countries, including SA. I think, as per my knowledge, we will be having a march on the 16th or 17th in Pretoria regarding people that are coming from outside South Africa, and which, in this sense, I think will be about our brothers and sisters from neighboring countries that are closer to South Africa. Do we have any channel? Do we have any ways that whatever that we're discussing now also goes to our leaderships or our ruling parties for them to understand that these topics that we everything that we are talking about does affect a lot of Africans, yes, including South Africans as well, Black South Africans. I guess it doesn't affect a lot of white people, but yeah, as we are affected by the whole issues that we have, we need to have a kind of a channel to make sure that these things are heard. And there is, I think there is one show that our President Mbeki, the ex-president, do speak to some people regarding African issues and all that. I think we will also need to make sure that this topics, the things that we talk about, they are heard on a higher level of leadership to sort out these matters. It's very painful that we are made to fight each other as Blacks, and we are made to lose our own identity as Blacks. So yeah, my question was just that one. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I absolutely agree. I think that is the ultimate vision, sir, to have these conversations at that level. We will head there. I think as far as Arise Black Child is concerned, particularly, this has been the first of this kind of conversations, but we do have other programs that we are running that have a similar vision of really re-engineering the minds of our people and reforming the minds of our people for a transformed life and reality. So let's see how we can collaborate. Let's see how we can continue working together. Let's see how we can continue networking with one another to have a faceless revolution, to have a concerted effort to try and do as much as possible, a united effort. I think I absolutely love the essence of a faceless revolution, because I think ego is always on the line with anything and everything, and people always want to be, one of the people that are seen or celebrated or whatever the case is. But we need to unite for a common cause, one that is bigger than us, obviously, and understand that this is not a ego contest or a popularity contest even. I see that our lecturer is back. Thank you so much, Mr. Shabalala, for joining us again. We just had a slight connection issue there. Mr. Shabalala, in the time that you've been gone, we just had a few people reflect, and then there was a question posed by Usis Noktula. I don't trust that I'll represent you well, leadership, so I might ask you to ask that question again, Sis Noktula. But you did mention something about You asked something about the notion of being others being more equal than others. You asked about hierarchy. Is everyone gifted? Is there hierarchy in these gifts? So please just clarify that question again for us. And then if I'm missing anything else, family, you will make those reflections again. But let's do this for the next 5 minutes, and then let's go back to our lecturer to continue, because he's not done. He still needs to cover another element to this lecture.
Yes, I think Sandile umkhulumela kahle, and I think Ubab Shabalala was still here when I was speaking. But in short, is to say, do we, as if we are to borrow from an Afrocentric point of view, do we subscribe to the notion of hierarchy of being, or are we, as people who are more inclined to reconcile and secular in our philosophy, more likely not to have that hierarchy of being? And I ask this question precisely because we seem to have this notion that some things are more important than others. Some people are more important than others. Even the notion of leadership, we no longer think of leadership as everyone, being leader where they are. We think of leaders as these faced people, and the faceless people we tend to relegate to the margins. And I also asked, what then does it mean for us to succeed in these spaces that are so anti-Black? Does it mean that we are becoming more, and we are giving up, essentially? I mean, for me, the notion of success, I think, needs to be made more complex than we are doing. And since this is our final discussion, I thought, let me just throw.
Thank you very much, Sis Noktula. If we can maybe take one or two other questions, if there are any, and then let's give back to Mr. Shabalala. Feel free to unmute your mic if you do have an input or a question that you want to ask. So I take it that everyone has said what they need to say. Mr. Shabalala, I'll give back to you. I don't know if you got that question from Usis Noktula, and then that will be the only question that you answer, and then you can wrap up whatever you need to still speak on.
Thank you so much, Babum Sevi. Well, I think that the question is very important. What does it mean to be successful? But most significantly, the question of forms of leadership. I think that was the heart of what I was trying to represent. Sis Noktula got it that correct. Uguti, like leadership in Africa for me, it was not a voyage of hierarchy. It was not a leader on the basis of who dominates, but it was a leader on who is chosen. And chosen on the basis of what? Chosen on the basis of who's gonna look into the interest of people. If we dig deep into our history, you will realize that being a king was not based on your embellishments. You could be a great fighter if you trace it from that combat history. But if the gods are not for you, you are gonna lose that fight because your heart is not in a correct position. You could be the most intellectual person, but you will not lead the council of advisors because your heart is not in the interest of the development of people. Now, I controversially raised the issue of the spirit. Religious people understand how it is the spirit that navigates what history becomes and who emerges from history. It is not really human might, that makes someone a leader, but it is really being chosen by God or the gods or whatever form of religious orientation you come from. So that is what we must emphasize on as African people. We must shy away from the polls, political polls, like a person is elected on votes, and as such is different from us. We don't need to again come back to a sense of elitist forms of leadership. In fact, if you guys allow me, I'm going to use this question as a point of departure to get into what should our vision and plan be. So when we lead, our interest should solely be on who has the heart for the people. And how do we know that you have the heart for the people? It is when your face does not matter. And Sis Noktula, you rightfully say, faceless leaders, because we can't be bothered when we are genuinely impacting people on the ground and we are really developing their lives. We must think of ourselves as contributors into a greater future. If I help one, the one that I'm helping might help 1,000. The 1,000 might build 100,000. That 100,000 might become a civilization of 1 million, 2 million. So when we see ourselves as spiritually driven, whatever you call that inclination, of course, we're not interested in religious dispositions and accuracy. But when your intentions are clearly the service of the people, you don't mind your face. In fact, in our culture, when you give someone something, please don't mention my name because I'm not helping you to be popular. I'm helping you for your purpose. I understand that you met me so that I can provoke and drive your destiny direction differently from what it would have been without me. So that is the kind of attitude we must have, that if I'm cleaning somewhere, I'm not cleaning because it's a job and I've got nothing else to do. But if I'm cleaning purposefully because this domain must be found proper for those after me. So I have contributed purposefully, intentionally, so that this particular facility that's going to be used is in a good condition. So what do? We create a sense of what do they call these things? Country-based belief, patriotism. Patriotism. We create a sense of innate patriotism where the cleaner is as significant as the president. Because when the president comes, he knows the cleaner by name. We cannot continue to refer people according to their positions. I cannot be cleaning your office every day and you don't take interest in how many keys do I have, what is my emotional and financial position. That's not leadership. You know, that is whiteness, where your role is what determines how you interact in the institution. For me, the cleaner is as important as the CEO because they contribute. And that's what I was saying when I said the corporate culture does not allow us to translate the African culture, because the fact that my mother is cleaning the house and I'm going to school doesn't mean that she's less significant. If she was not cleaning and washing for me, my peers would be laughing at me. So she must take that role until I learn that responsibility. In fact, I am of the view that this specialization is a mitigation of Black actualization. You know, if you speak to an average Black boy, he can fix a car, he can do the lawn, he can, you know, we can do a lot of things that are called specialized skills. We can plumb. and now when you get to the market, you say, there's a plumber. You know, those things. So we contrary to the Western form of development and education, we are a rounded people. We judge you on the basis of interest, on the traits that we're at. If you are a king and you do not know how to smith, you do not know how to fight, you do not know all the specializations in your civilization, you can't be a king because you command. You are a king because you are part of the creative processes. You contribute in the development and the embellishment of your people. So if you can't do what your people can do, you are not their king. You are not part of their culture. You are just an elite that must be carried, and we can't listen to you. You just have advisors and people who you are not interested. So we must come to the realization of the fact that the least amongst you is the great. The one who serves is the greatest. So if you are not in service, I don't regard you as a, you may have multitude of followers. I mean, for guys like us who can speak, it's very easy to persuade people and people are following you. You are a lazy person, you are irresponsible, you don't take interest in nothing, you just know how to speak and you are confident because that's what you have been given. And that's not what we need. We need people who truly take interest on the basis of what these things are. So that is my view. If we are going to build anything different from what the Western civilization suggests, we must do away with specialization. Every job that must be done can be done by any person here. If it is an academic job, if I'm there for 5 years, come on, guys. If I'm there for 5 years, I can fix the car, even though I came there as a cleaner. We have stories of our grandfathers who came there working as a cleaner, but he saw what was due, they were doing, he said, no, but I can also fix this thing. So that is a fair process of transitioning the grids. But if they say, no, you are a cleaner, don't be here what they're fixing. What they're doing is they're mitigating your ability to learn on the basis of watching. What you see is what you can do, what you practice is what you can develop to be. So we must do away with these faces to say, you are an actual scientist. No, if I can see it every day, trust me, I can master that art. So I'm not for face leaders on the basis of what they call their qualifications, facelessness on the basis of product interest. That's what we are. That's what must drive our civilization. Leadership, Sandy, on your permission, leadership and consultation of whether I've answered or not, I will move on.
Me too. I want to be an actuary and whatever on the basis of my melanin, which makes me a multifaceted, complex being.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Tomorrow I'm going to be an actuary.
Confine us. You can't limit us. You can't confine us. No leadership. We are happy. We are happy. You may proceed.
I'm not going to take long leadership. I'm just going to, in maybe 10, 15 minutes, conclude because I feel like we have engaged for quite some time. But taking from the facelessness of revolution, what am I saying? Let's anarchize. Anarchize where? Anarchize in your family. When people are behaving anti-life, when people are behaving anti-human, you must be the one, even if they say you are young, but if you are the cultural custodian, you must remind your elders to say, this is not how it was. This kind of thinking will not take us forward. It is our responsibility not to be confined to teachings and principles that take us back as a people. So all of us here have a responsibility to anarchize. Anarchize, how I said, through policy, if you are working, if you are living in a complex, you are living in an estate, anarchize, make that space more conducive for Black people. That's how we revolt. And secondly, how do we revolt? We must see ourselves as the Steve Bigos, as the Sobukwes, as the Nelson Mandelas. They will not know how to deal with us. If we say the people that you recognize are actually us, then they will not reduce that trait to a particular historical moment. We are troubling them with historical continuity. And we must say, as Nelson Mandela, I am not completely free. Nelson Mandela states something very profound. He says, I've done my part. You guys must do your part. Of course, there are so many things said about him, but if we take that grafting as a reference in history, say, they recognize him as a leader, let's pose ourselves as him and say, we still can't breathe. We are still killed everywhere. We are still not paid. We are still not given academic opportunities. That form of rebellion, of connecting ourselves to historical leaders recognized and looked down upon by them, that gives us a leverage of continuity to say, after Biko, there was Sandy, after Sandy, there was this young boy. Still, the contention was one because our freedom is not total. So those are ways that we can revolutionize. But then going forward, leadership, we must structure. I will speak on very important elements that I feel that we need to reflect on if we are going to build anything. Now that we anarchize, I said revolution, of course, is the anarchy. It is the disorder of the oppressed against an orderly system. When we refused to be regulated by rules that dehumanize us, that is the start of revolution. So Marikana is the start of revolution. The revolution is active. Fees must fall is the start of revolution, but that is not the apex of revolution. When we anarchize, we have not reached the apex of revolution. And so we must have a vision, we must have a plan. But primarily, we must anarchize. You must anarchize in class. You must tell them, no, I know these things you are teaching, comrades. What are you doing here? You know, you must anarchize everywhere. No, this thing of us getting here at 8, me, I'm going to come here at 10. I'm more productive when I come here at 10. I will not be here at 8. My periods, you are a teacher, right? My periods must start at 10. Me, I have a wife, I have a child. I must take my child to school. My wife must be fine. So you comrades are going to see me at 10 here. My periods are starting at 10. Why are you calling me at 8? For staff meeting, where you're going to say the same things every day. No, comrades, don't do those things. And then when we become assertive and demand to do work on our terms, then we are on our way to creating spaces that accommodate our culture, that accommodate our abilities. We must not have shame for being a resource that is needed. So we must work on our terms, and then we can become consultants. They say, hey, that Sandy Levere, we saw him. Hey, he was very troublesome here. That's why he's a consultant. But if we are here submissive to things that actually displace our family, displace our friendship, displace our own well-being, you know, people would be sick, very sick, but they'll still wake up to go to work because they want to get paid. So we must insist on anarchy, but anarchy is what we do for ourselves to be accommodated. So all of us here, the 10, 20 of us, 14 that are us participating here, we must insist on anarchy. Create a space where your personal potential can be conducive and built to shine. No one is dumb, no one is dull. We all can become something if the environment is conducive. Let's fight for our terms. Let's anarchize. What is the vision? What is the plan, Sandy? Now that we anarchize, we must then organize. Because you know what intellectuals say? I've had conversations with most of my intellectual teachers. I've been privileged leadership. I went back to school again. So I have these conversations with intellectuals, and they say to me, yeah, see, can we hear you with this thing of yours? So what are you suggesting as an alternative to capitalism? What they displace us with, it is a despair, a point of end to say, fine, we understand capitalism is not well, but capitalism is a better devil because we can navigate it. And then my question to them is always this, but what about all those people who are not academically smart, who cannot be top of the class and pass to be a lecturer and sit under these air conditions and not care about the students that they teach, the fact that they come from academic backgrounds that are not as similar as everyone else, that it is the first time that they are learning an entire lecture in English. What are you saying about those kids who do not have the IQ and the social orientation to cope with university? You know, Sandy, now university, culturally, before you get to class, culturally, in high school, you were known by your name. They said they know your father. You had a social intact interaction with your school. Your transition from home to school was the same. But now you're at university, you are a nobody, your lecturer cares about nothing, he cares not to explain because your question is not intellectual, your English is not intact, don't waste my time, I'm here working. So that transition, so when these intellectuals question us, they say, okay, Sharp, we cannot use capitalism, right? But what is your plan? And then, of course, because capitalism has been developed in academic institutions, in political institutions, in religious institutions. Religious institutions are very capitalistic. You know, they are driven by money. The rich pastor is most respected than the poor pastor. Regardless of the content of the poor pastor, it doesn't matter. But because he's rich, the president is going to call him the rich businessman. So who cares about the potential? Who's going to succeed that person? That is why corruption is going to be eminent amongst us as long as we continue to respect money. Potential doesn't matter when profit is the incentive. You can't waste time on potential when profit is the incentive. So the African culture focuses on potential on the basis of your purpose. We decipher what is your purpose. We support your potential on the basis of your purpose. So I'm saying when we anarchize, we must expect this question that when we collapse these institutions, when we collapse the system, whatever the system is, capitalism, colonization, and all forms that we identified as, we are going to have to answer these questions as leaders. But what is the alternative? So what are we going to eat? Who's going to work? Who's going to farm? I mean, we are equal. Who's going to be the boss? You know, those rhetorics. So that is where we are going to be. Now we'll suggest our ancient history has a lot of stones to respond to those intellectual questions. We have a lot of stones, but most work has been done on Ubuntu. We subscribe to Ubuntu. Ubuntu is our primary position. Why Ubuntu? Ubuntu because Sobukwe says it beautifully. Africa gives the world a more human face. If you look at capitalism, capitalism is stripping away the importance of men. It is, you know, these things of depopulation, saying, oh, we are too many now, we are threatening resources, resources are becoming extinct, so people must die to make way for material. So material is now more important than people. But in the African culture, we must find ways of using material for material to serve the survival of human beings. It is innate in the Ubuntu culture. If you come Sandile in our community, you don't have a cow, and a cow is an economical composite. When I take you to work for me, I'm not taking you as a subservient. I'm saying, okay, chief, here's a wealth system. Here are cows, come work for me. When you work, this is your cow. If your cow gives birth, it's your cow. Whatever calf, if you are blessed, you're gonna get a female cow, and that's great. And if you get a female cow, you're gonna develop your own crawl. That is your own economical hub. It is based on what? It is based on share good, interest in a human being, interest in the fact that if you are a man, if we say you must lobola, you must have cows. So if you are saying we must lobola and you don't create a culture of empowering people to accumulate what they must use to move, then you are saying, you know, I don't understand when people say, hey, you must lobola, and there's no cultural element that enables us to acquire these elements that make us to be able to lobola. You had that conversation with me there. She said, hey, lobola. I'm like, no, this culture has a disconnect. Because culturally, when you grow up, when you are born and they see you are a boy, already they say that is your cow. You don't even know what cows are. When you grow up and they say, hambo yowelus, ulusa ini inkomo. Why you losing inkomo? One day the inkomo will represent your wealth. The inkomo will get you a wife. The inkomo will get you prestige. If you are favored and that is your area, your crawl will grow, and so will your name. But we create a fair chance for everyone to accumulate wealth. But if the scales of contestation of wealth are not balanced, then everyone who's winning is not winning on merits. They are winning either because of corruption, propaganda. You're gonna have all those things because, I mean, survival of the fittest. Those are thinkings of the West people. This thing called evolution. You know, those kind of theoretization that are not African, where people must just do anything to get ahead. But we must insist to say Ubuntu has a leverage of saying everyone alive deserves a chance. If you are alive, you cannot be in service to someone. Employment is the greatest curse because if a human being is your boss, you will never dictate your own will. So if you have a boss that you report to, that is a curse, that is a burden on you. It is not supposed to be so. If I work for you for 5 years, you must say, I know now that you have learned the trade. I'm going to open a company for you. I'm going to support you. Stand alone. Do what I do. Be a boss. Accumulate your own wealth. Service your own family. Why must one man have so much that they can buy even things that they don't need? They have 5 houses. They have 10 houses. But there's one man who's working hard, but he can barely feed his family. That's an evil system. So we must take them to task to say, we have a system in the African context. It is based on Ubuntu. Ubuntu suggests that if I'm part of this system, I'm looking after your cows are mine. And because they are mine, they can reproduce. Unlike money, you must invest money, there are banks. So you can't understand these things of money. You can lend them. They try to teach us. They even teach us Forex now. They should go into Forex. It's very difficult. You must have a clear principle like Ubuntu to say, if I'm working with you, I must know what you know, I must become what you are, so that I too can feed my family like you are. I'm not aspiring to be like you, but if this is a standard of humanity, if white people are saying, to be human, you must be educated. To be human, you must own a company. To be human, you must work. Okay, fine, we accept that because they've destroyed our culture. But we're saying, we remember Ubuntu. If we work for you for 5 years, you must remember, you must release us, Jubilee. I must be my own boss. I must be my own master. I must report to myself because I'm a father. I must teach my children this trade. And they are going to work with pride, saying, this is what my father did. What my father was doing was feeding us. I'm telling you, Sandile, our children will not become teachers. Our children will not become pastors. They will not become engineers because that thing is not feeding them. Young people are looking up to criminals. They're looking up to politicians because those are the people with money. And those people are corrupt people. So if you are sending us to a trade that continues to dehumanize us, then you are saying to our children, don't look up to your parents. And they will teach our children. They'll teach them at school. They'll teach them through the media. We sit with our children and they watch TV with us. They tell us the storylines, the content, and you are not a parent because you are being educated similarly with your child. You understand? They are taking the role of educating your children because they are taking over the media, they are taking over curriculum, they are paying for all information sets because you must never become like them. So the first thing, we must advocate for Ubuntu as an intricate kind of ideology, not this thing of saying Ubuntu is about humanity. That is a distortion of what Ubuntu is. It's a spit on the face of Africans. It is not only about the ethics of things. It's not just that when you come, you know, because they want to violate us. You know, with Africans, when you come, they're gonna be kind, they are not gonna fight. That's what they know. But what about the economical connotations? What about the religious connotations that I must be tolerant to your religion? Because even though you believe differently from me, I can learn something from you. Perhaps your God is the real God. That is how open we were, because we want to grow our knowledge system beyond just openness. Openness is not our objective. Eternity is our objective. We are not just open because openness is just ignorance, but eternity. We want to find the idea that lasts forever. We adjust, we have adjusted now. I'm speaking in English. I've been speaking in English. That is the nature of Africans. So Ubuntu is an acceptance of ideas that are pro-humanity. But those ideas must speak to my economical realities. They must speak to my ethnical realities. They must speak to my moral realities, religious. There is harmony in what Africans adhered to. But within Ubuntu leadership, I want to suggest this one virtue and then allow us to discuss. There's a virtue called Ujama. One of the African states, when they got liberation, they realized that we cannot advance without incentivizing our people economically. Now, this is my model of revolution. If we are serious about revolution, this is the plan. This is my plan for Africa. We come to the suburbs. The suburbs are not for us. We see the way these people look at us. They don't greet each other. They don't know you by name. You make noise. That's not our space. But we must be there because we want to get educated. We want to work. But we must understand those places are not for us. So the suburbs are a no-go area for Black people. If you are a Black person in a suburb area, you are a suspect. Regardless of how much money you have, you are most likely to be stopped by police. It's not a home. It's a home for white people. They build walls, we don't. So those walls, those estates, who are they building that against? The ones that they are economically depriving, because those ones are going to eat them. Those ones are going to want the opulence they have. So the system forms criminals regardless of how much they are trying to feed us, but they must protect themselves from us. It's the suburbs. That's their entire intention, to separate themselves from us because they are not like us, and we must not see how they live. Least we envy them and we want to eat cheese, we want to eat pork, we want to have electricity, clean water. We must not know that people are having clean water. You know, we must not know that people they don't have load shedding. You know, they say you have no load shedding with this conference. It's you who has load shedding. So you must not know their reality. So when you are there and you know these things and you tell your people you are not amongst them, you are a criminal. They will ostracize you. So the burbs are not our place. Townships. Townships too are not our place. Townships are like, if for you, they are like synagogues. They are a place of being taken away from where we were, from who we are. They derive those things to give themselves easy access to labor. We can't pride ourselves from coming from Soweto. No one comes from Soweto. That is a lie. We can't pride ourselves from coming from all these major townships that our artists and our leaders claim to come from. Of course, now, contemporarily, it's un-African not to be able to trace yourself from your place of birth. People say, I come from Soweto. No, you must trace yourself from the place of birth of your ancestor. That is why Isithakazelo, because Isithakazelo helps you trace yourself from where you were born. Because where you find yourself as a child, it is because of the voyage of the person who has given birth to you. That does not mean that's where you come from. So you must connect with your parent through your praise name to trace your origin. When you trace your origin, you will then understand the archaeological, epistemological, and cultural realities that drove your people. You will know that your people were great, your people were chiefs, your people were kings, your people were leaders of civilizations. But if you say, I am from Soweto, that's where they want you. You are from a township. Township people are like this, like that, and then we lose it. We can't build anything in the township, my brother. Those are not natural inhabitants for our people. You know what they are doing in townships now? They are building malls because they are seeing that we insist on living in townships. We are building these nice houses. We are building these entertainment areas. We are having these kind of conversations, Sunday, that you guys are bringing us. They see that we are Sophia Town. That's a Sophia Town model. We are building our economy. We are fighting to build our own products. And they are disturbing us. They are bringing us malls. They are destroying markets. Those mothers were selling. They are destroying spicer shops successfully. There must be nothing that we do. We must remember that we must work. Soweto is the biggest township. It employs. We can't be proud that Soweto employs. We must be proud that Sowetans are employing, because that means they are running the economy. But they will always disturb us. We are too close to them. They know what we are doing. So what is our revolution? Ujamaa. Ujamaa said, let's go back to the villages. And you know what is the privilege with the South African governance? They still have chiefs. Chiefs have land. Of course, they take the land away from them. They have been taking the land away from them. But what do we have there in the villages, Sandy? We have a rich linguistical culture. Our old people are still speaking the deep language that was spoken by our ancestors, because they were not interrupted by education, they were not interrupted by modernization, they were not interrupted by commercialization and employment. They still put value in what language means according to the cultural realities. So if we want to know who we are, let's go back to the villages. What will we find? The elders, old people who we think their information is not commercially or profitable. Why? Because they are speaking of another world that you don't know. They say, yeah, Padua, what was this song done? Like, Gogo, I saw seven. Yes, I seven Ganjan. It is because we have left the rural areas. We have left where the land is, where the life is, where the language is, where the culture is, where our identity is. If we are interested, Sunday, in finding ourselves, I'm your peer. I cannot be teaching. Me and you must drive one day and go to the deep rurals and say, Ntomdala, what have we lost? They will remind us. They will teach us language accuracy, cultural accuracy, the kings, the chiefs that lived before us, the realities that we never knew. We can't be teaching each other. We are very young to be teaching. We have not lived enough. We still need to learn. That's why, when people are hard on me, when I make mistakes, they don't understand me. I'm experimenting. You can't expect me to be a father now. Christians say, you are a father. I'm no father. I'm a young person. Don't rush. Must learn. That's what Western civilization quickly does. They say, you have a degree. Now you are this, you are a father. When are you going to make mistakes? When are you going to explore? The geniuses of this world that they pride themselves of, Abu Einstein, they once rejected them. They said this information is not correct. They rebelled their societies Today, they regard them as their geniuses. Now, they don't give us that privileges. Our best years are wasted in commitment and not in creativity and exploration. We don't explore anything. You're already a teacher, they give you a curriculum, you are doing nothing. All your best years are wasted in service. What must we do? Let's disconnect with the obsession of this concrete jungle, these cities. The one assist us will be poor for the rest of our lives. We're paying car, you're paying bond, you're paying clothes, you're paying food, you want to eat out. All these prestigious things are eating out on our pocket. For me to be on Insta, I must be eating out, I must be driving the best car, I must be staying in the best place. Where am I going to get all those things, comrades? I'm very hungry. I mean, why are you unfair with me? So let's disconnect with the obsession of cities and also townships. Townships have toxic cultures because in the townships you find people who are not working, you find criminals. So it's a good space for the reflection of what, contrary to cities, Black people are experiencing. We must use that as a case study. But furthermore, safe spaces, I tell you, my brother, rural areas are safe spaces. People are still known by their names. They are traced according to their families. They are referred to according to their clans. They are respected according to their contribution in the societies. If we want to build a civilization, if we are really, really, really serious, we must go back to the rural areas. Do what there, Ujamaa. Ujamaa is an agricultural focus for economical empowerment. But Ujamaa now, we must translate it beyond what it was in inception. That is why progression is important. We can't keep on insisting on Ubuntu as it was. We must progress Ubuntu to fit our cultural realities, to fit our contextual realities. So Ujamaa for me, which is what I am suggesting to you, is a plan for Africa. It is what I'm applying myself. I'm very involved now in economical incentives, economical issues, to say we must be the one who are creating jobs. We must call the employees and tell them that they don't know what they're doing. We are on the ground with these people. These are our ideas. Because when they call you to a boardroom, Sandy, and you are vocal, they will buy you. And after they buy you, they'll give you a house, they'll give you a car, you'll no longer be with your people. When you come back to your people, they don't recognize you. You look like the people they were fighting. So you are as intimidating as they are. So whatever you tell them is correct because, wow, you are now rich. They have bought a lot of young people. They spit on our faces daily. They organize themselves in what they call community forums. Those people are liars and sellouts. They continue to eat on the blood of their people. They are doing what white people did. And so oppression and job reservation is not a white thing. It is a human thing. And we must frown upon these cultures when we see them amongst us. These people in forums, watch them in your community. They are eating as they say, you can't come and do business here because we don't know you. Am I not a child of this soil? Have they not demarcated a place to themselves, just like the white people have? Are we not doing what the colonizers have done, depriving someone growth and prosperity on the basis of where they are born? Is that not what racism is about? So we must look at these forums, these organizations that are red taping, represented by black faces. These people who come to us when we are angry. And the CEO is not there. They say, here's a community developer. That guy is coming with a big car, he's buying us cold drinks, say, no, we're going to hire 10 people amongst you. You know, we are part of you, these white people. No, they are lying. They have sold us out. They too are as bad as they are. We must not embrace them. The black consciousness culture had that. They revoked the status on you when you sided with white people. They did not recognize you as a leader of black people because their disposition was, if you are black, you must live amongst black people. Where are black people leadership? Black people are in the villages. Those grandmothers and grandfathers that we visit when it's December, that is where we are. Those people that we go to visit when we are all done and we have the final paycheck and there's nothing and no one to see and you say you are seeing relative, that is your life. Those are people. So what does Ujamaa mean? Ujamaa means we must go to those chiefs. We must assist them. They must build schools. There must be town planning. There must be water there. We must be the one going to the municipalities and say, hey, comrades, where is the policy here? What is the LED plan? What is the NDP interpretation? We, the sons of the parents who are dispositioned. We who know the language must not use the language against our people. We must refuse to construct documents like RDP, NDP, LED. It is us who are coming with that vocabulary. We must understand that vocabulary, go there and ask for accountability. Say, but I was born here. Since I was born, this township has been here. What is the LED plan? You know, we must invite our friends when they say they don't have capacity. I must call my friend who's a town and regional planner. Say, Chief, come here, see this place, draw up a plan. I want to submit it to the municipality. You must call your friend who's a teacher. Say, Chief, what kind of curriculum in school can we build? That is keeping to the context of here. Children in a place where there's mining, they must not waste their time learning about farming. What are they going to do with that thing? They must learn about mining from an early age. They must know what iron ore is because they must take over those mines. So it is our responsibility to go into these communities that are exploited, where there's no one representing them because there's no one educated, where these politicians are having a field day, giving our grandparents t-shirts, giving our grandparents KFC. The biggest voters of the current sitting political parties are people in the rural areas. Embarrassingly, they knew that even during COVID-19, they needed to incentivize them. They gave them 350. My brother, what can you buy with 350? 350. Huh? 350. Those people who receive 350, those are the ones who are going to vote for the ruling party. Uchama, what does that mean? Let's collaborate our knowledge. Let's collaborate ourselves. Let's collaborate our resources. Don't be better than me. Let's work alongside each other and go and build a civilization so distant from them that they will not understand. And when we build a civilization championed by ourselves, then we are going to be taken serious. And I must rebuke this then leadership. We cannot have activists, revolutionaries that want to be celebrities. It must not be hard to access anyone who claims to be a revolutionary in your platform. When you call them and they start saying, speak to my PA, they are not serious. They are not ready, leadership. They are not ready. They are just proposing themselves as elitists with a rhetoric that numbs black pain. If I call a person that claims to be a revolutionary and they can't take my call and I tell them, I have 5 young black people, I look up to you, they look up to you, please come address them and say, no, I don't do that. I know that person is not a revolutionary. We must call each other out. We must see who you are on the basis of your willingness to participate where there is no financial incentive. So what is our plan? Our plan is to identify each other through historical means, connect ourselves to BECO, not to be elites. But what are we doing in identifying ourselves? We're identifying ourselves so that we can revolt through policies. Policy is a very sophisticated way of revolting in their world. But ultimately, we are revolting through policies because we are framing them, because we want to build a civilization there in the villages. How are we building that civilization? With the resources that policy affords us. We can go to the man and say, give us 1 million. We want to build a school there, want to build a hall there, because we have framed those policies. We have a plan. So we're going to take that money they stole from us. We're going to build a civilization. We're not going to buy cars. We're not going to build houses. We're not going to buy, no, we're going to build a civilization with the money that they stole from us. And then how are we going to make sure that this faceless revolution, where you are coming as a teacher, I'm coming as an engineer, he's coming as a doctor, it's a faceless revolution. It's a revolution of experts. We are giving them knowledge. Say, these people need a hospital because every patient, if a population is 1,000, they need 5 nurses. So you must build a college to train nurses. You must build a hospital, you know, because these people are in that framework. They can articulate those things. Then it's a faceless revolution. Then how do we safeguard that revolution? We safeguard this revolution. I want to propose the ANC as a model as I'm concluding. I want to believe that they pose as a tripartite alliance. They say they're a tripartite alliance. Msholozi had once said to Solima Paila that, you know, guys, you are not speaking this rhetoric of socialism, that each according to their need, not according to how much they work. The rhetoric of socialism has been so suppressed in the ANC. In fact, the ANC is branded as a party of elites and capitalists. We're seeing them being arrested for corruption, which should be an unheard thing when they have a socialist wing as part of the tripartite alliance. I believe that when these ones went into political power, the responsibility of the socialist wing was to be the conscience of the comrades who go in there because they came as equals. But now if you see someone like Blade Nzimande becoming a minister of a system that is not completely transitioned and transformed, then you know that his socialism is already compromised. That is why he annoyingly said, since the students are saying fees must fall, the students must fall, he laughed as a socialist. That is a spit on our face. So how do we revolt? Yes, faceless revolution is important, but it is dangerous because people can be bought. With all this energy leadership that I'm giving you now, but if these comrades can call me with $1 billion, comrades, me, I'll betray you. You understand? $1 billion, guys, come on. No, you'll be expecting too much of me. So what do? We have these formations with our articulate spearheaders, not leaders, spearheaders of the movement. They are just articulate, they are graced to represent us, but they are not our leaders. They are spearheading. So what do? Then we form a base of saying you report to the masses because we do not want you signing what we have not agreed on. So when you go there and sit in the boardrooms, don't be excited. You don't have the signing powers. You must come back to us as young people, as elders, as chiefs, as whatever prestige we have in the society. We must hear what you are saying. In fact, when you come, don't come alone. Bring that person you're with in the boardroom. We want you guys to collaborate because tomorrow we don't want you to say, no, they agreed. No, we agreed. Both the representer, the one we are represented to, we agreed together, all of us as the masses, that this is what must happen. So that when we revolt, no one is going to arrest us because we have a contract that we collectively agreed on. How do we revolt? Let's have institutions, but institutions must not have all the powers. The power must remain with the masses. The masses must determine what is best for them. Because if one man is eating, all of us are not going to eat. Leadership, I thank you so much for the opportunity.
Hey. Leadership, thank you so much. Thank you so much. To everyone who has been patient, thank you a lot. I know that we have gone way over time, but this was necessary. You know, television can wait a bit. It is not going to rescue us. Leadership, I have to thank you. Yeah, it was important that we closed in this manner. It was very important that we wrapped up in this manner. You said a mouthful, but thank you so much, leadership. We must revolt through policies. We need to look into collectivism, faceless revolution. We must not exceptionalize the revolution. Leadership, I need to visit you. I need us to have a serious conversation about Ujama. That's where I am. I need us to talk particularly on that one, how we can collaborate resources, collaborate everything like you said. I now have a reason to really see you, meet you, talk to you. It needs to happen as soon as possible. But Shabalala, I do not have the words to express my gratitude. I do not have the words to express how filled I am. You don't understand. Thank you so much for umhlahlandlela that you have given us. You've really given us something to think about and to work on. You've given us a framework. You know, it's very easy to speak powerfully and then, you know, people don't know what to do next. You know, then people are just saying, he was powerful, he was powerful. No, he was powerful. And then the question is, Utini, how do we move forward? What do we need to do? And you have done that for us. You have given us things that we can use and, you know, reflect ourselves against. How am I doing as far as the revolting against police? You know, what am I doing? Is my voice heard? Or things happen behind my back and I don't even have a problem. I'm okay with things happening without me having had a voice. You know, what am I doing as far as anarchizing, rebelling against systems that oppress me? How am I organizing? You know, you are giving us things really to work with. And I want to say thank you very much. I know it's very, very late, but if there is someone who wants to say something, ask a question, let's take 3 people at most, and then let us close it, not only for tonight, but let us close the Black Education Masterclass. It has been a phenomenal journey, and I must thank you all. I know that giving up your time on a weekend, it really takes a lot, and I know that data struggle as well, family. So thank you so much for your commitment. I will allow anyone to unmute their mic and say anything or ask anything.
Greetings, everyone. Wow, what a great, I don't know if I call it a lecture or a talk, but thank you so much for sharing with us knowledge and insight and, you know, consciousness and growth that you've developed throughout these years. And more than anything, you know, you did not just complain, but you said, you know, these are the solutions, this is the direction, you know, this is what we can do and we should do. So thank you so much. And, you know, it's the issue of knowing the policies. Those are not our policies, but they are policies that unfortunately we have to deal with. Whether it's the banking policy, whether it's a lot of us live in townhouses. There's this sectional title rubbish that is there. It's killing us. People's properties are being auctioned because they don't know that policy. They don't understand that policy. You know, so this policy is it's so crucial that we know policies with our work spaces and our places, because there's spaces in these policies where we can breathe and we can actually be more of our authentic selves within it, you know, that they've hidden there for their own use that we don't know of, you know, like you're saying, you know, I know in my workspace, the policy is if you're not there after by 10 o'clock, then you're not considered, you know, having come to work. But if you don't know those things, you know, you don't know how to shape yourself and actually be more of yourself. So thank you so much. And I think the other comment I wanted to make, just to add on to the things that we need to do going forward, is this thing of us forcing our children to study and learn things that they don't have a calling for. It's a serious problem. You know, because we are putting them into a life of misery, where they are not excited, they are not motivated to wake up to go to those damn jobs. And all we are doing is feeding this capitalist system that works for them. They need engineers, they need this, they need that. But what were you born to do? What calling do you have that is within you? We see people who have a calling to paint and they go far in doing that. They go onto the global stage in doing that because it's a calling that you have. So we must really, you know, as parents, even ourselves, some of us, it's too late. You studied what you studied, you stuck with it in a sense, you know, but we must really, because that thing, you know, we all have certain skills that we have ancestrally, you know, within our lineages that we are meant to bring into this world to contribute through. But if you are ignoring it and you go and feed yourself, you know, plug yourself into this system of being a lawyer or an accountant, you won't even be a good lawyer or accountant. You will just be that thing that is paying the bond and the car repayments and so forth. So I think I will leave it at that. But thank you so much. I'm encouraged, I'm revitalized, and I think going forward, the other last thing I want to say, I know I said I was going to be done, is we have lawyers amongst us. You know, this legal system is killing us on so many ways. You know, you buy a car, how much do you pay? You pay double, I think, the amount of what the initial car thing. You know, we need to understand the debt system that we put ourselves in. So amongst us, there are lawyers and people that are knowledgeable about these things, and part of the future master classes could be masterclass on these sectional title things, a masterclass on when you're buying that car, what are you buying exactly? What, you know, so I think that's a suggestion that I can make. Thank you so much, Sandile. Thank you for, you know, imparting your time and not getting paid. You know, getting paid is not the be end and all of actually making efforts for all of us to realize our authentic being and ourselves, which is ultimately the most important aspect of why we are here. But thank you once again. This time I'm really leaving it at this. Thank you.
Zile too.
Maibuye. Sister Shina, thank you so much for those reflections. Actually, on the point that you made, I was going to ask everyone to please suggest using our WhatsApp group that we still have. You want to email us, you can email us. Please talk to us about how we can improve these master classes. This was the first, but it was definitely not the last, family. We are going to look at framing another one for next year, so that we continue. We are going to continue. So I would appreciate reviews of how you found this one particularly, and obviously suggestions of what we can talk about in the next ones, and how we can improve them. If you have those suggestions for us, if you have those inputs for us, please, I would very, very much appreciate them. I'm willing to take one more person who has an input or a reflection, and then asivaleni.
Leadership.
My leader, you have joined us. I'm happy to see you here, Mr.
Yeah.
Leader.
Leadership. Leadership, I still remember when we have some debate session at the University of Johannesburg. And I know it was not the, you know, it was not the beginning and the end, but it was a start. It was a great start. Let me say this, you know, ABC, Sandy, thanks, man. ABC is a visionary, and it's very clear to what Africans' objectives are. And Umshengu lapha wayithinta ukuthi in a basis of knowledge, if we find people who are creating knowledge for us, we are in danger. And Marcus Garvey said, when we look history, it's a component of, you know, determining the future, learning from the history, and also so we can create a future with that. So thanks man to Umshengu laphana. I think what you have said, Umshengu, they're very vital and very critical. And in all the problems that we have or challenges that we have, but I've been analyzing, you know, looking for if we create a content, this is something that you said, if we create a content, and it will be creating ourselves as well. So it's very important in terms of creating knowledge. Sandile, it's very important that we create knowledge. We create content knowledge, and we don't need no one to certify our knowledge. You know, it's unfortunate that we carry on with our careers, and these institutions, they certify us so that, you know, we can be part of the system. But we must have a parallel vision, like ABC is doing. So which is very, very important. And Michelle, you spoke about the faceless leadership. So what is important about that? Self-directed work leadership, it's very important that we must consider ourselves as leaders because each and every African when is born, it's a leadership, it's a leader by its own. So if we lead ourselves, you will know that when you get to work, that's not your boss, that's a manager of department or of a factory of whatever, a department or whatever sector of work it is. But if you know that you are a leader, then you'll know there's no one who will be your boss. I mean, I'm glad that you are saying because you get to work by 10 o'clock because of, your class starts at 10 o'clock. So that's very critical. That's very, very critical. Because if we same 7 by 8 o'clock, I mean, I think we are still enslaved and mentally so, because of now our mindset is attached to man. And we think money is the only element of survival, which is not. And then you spoke about, so in that case, I'm saying we will build more self-directed work leadership. And I think we need to know our psycho-worthlessness, because if we know like psychologically how much are we worthing, I mean, we will understand that because of Black consciousness is a mind over matter. So that's very important. That mindset is built because if you look around you, everything that is around you, it started in mind as a thought. So it's very important that our thoughts are very, very pure and very critical. No, man. Sandile, thanks. We will keep in touch. We'll keep in touch because managing COVID iphelile. COVID iphelile. I'm available.
Leaders, we need to meet. It's very urgent.
It's urgent. Sandile, I want to be out of order.
Yes, sir.
You have been ignoring comments here. I just browsed. I see people have been coming through with nice things. But I on that note, I want to have a parting shot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
30 seconds, if you allow me.
Please.
Remember, I said academics, politicians, singers, pastors, cultural workers must unite. I want to end the night with a beautiful cultural connection that musicians have done. There's a song in the culture of Xhosas, Zemkili Inkomo Magwalandini. I say that because that has been the basis of my argument in terms of our economical value. So kuthiwa Zemkili Inkomo Magwalandini. When you are defeated in the African culture, the primary thing they take, it is the cows. When you are void of cows, your entire wealth is gone. So the Xhosa women would cry, Zemkili inkomo magwalandini. But Thandiswa gives a rendition. Of course, if you're a jazz fan, you will know the orientation of that song and the cultural regard of it. But Thandiswa then gives us a beautiful recitation of Letambuli's song, Jikijela ngamatshe. And Jikijela ngamatshe says, Jikijela ngamatshe, sobashaya ngamatshe, inkomo zobuya. And now if you look at the stone, we were throwing the stone in the revolution against the gun. The objective was not necessarily the man. The objective is still the cows. We actually want the cows. So I'm saying this, if we really go back in appreciating history, appreciating artistry, and intellectualizing artistry as a commentary that is truly part of the societal occurrences. I mean, Thandiswa Mazai is a younger person, but she recites a song so beautifully. I would ask anyone who is here to listen to the Jikijela ngamatshe of Thandiswa. Would say, but we are fighting ngamatshe. It's not in our cultural orientation. Letambuli got that so accurately because she's a bit older than Thandiswa. But the objective is say, as we fight guns with stones, our objective is that we still want the cows back. And that I wanted to be my parting shot, that we must truly go back to the villages, comrades. Thank you very much, leader.
Leadership, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Aluta continua. Yes, we are closing the program, but ladies and gentlemen, the struggle continues. The fight continues. Let us not stop. Let us not be stopped by anything. There's something Umshengu said, the religious space is not going to stop us. The political space is not going to stop us. Let us not be tamed by anything. Let us not allow anything or anyone to dilute or to diffuse this revolutionary spirit that we are on. Let's continue. Let us not halt for anything. Even when you are called in to say, hey, I can buy you a house, can buy you a nice car, I can make sure that you are sorted. Let us not allow that to stand in the way, because this is not about us. This is about our people, and this is for the other generations that are coming after us. I want to thank everyone that has committed to this program from the very beginning. Even if you couldn't attend all of them and you could come in here and there, thank you to everyone who has been here today. Thank you so much. Like I said, Masinga Stop family, I'm of the belief that our output is always a result of our input and obviously the process that goes into it. We cannot continue wasting our time with television and meaningless things that do not yield any fruits, that do not yield anything in our lives. Let's continue exposing ourselves to the right content, to the right people, to the right conversations, to the right, let's continue exposing ourselves to the right things so that we can continue to rise. To everyone here, arise, black child, aluta continua, stay black, stay strong. Thank you very much.
What do you mean we are landless ones? I mean, really, hey. I mean, of all the things to say, I have a bond, Mina, so I'm not landless. It's been good. It's been good. Yes, now I'm not gonna sleep. My husband, oh my God, I'm not gonna sleep. It happened with Mama Asentiwa. We slept at 5 in the morning because my bones were rattled. My husband was like, oh my God, With Mama Asentiwa, we didn't sleep. We slept on Sunday at 5. I was singing, I was crying. He thought saying he was like, you're kidding. Oh, people, it's been good. Landless ones. Love you lots. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Love you all, family.
Love you guys. Stay well. Take care.
Mama, hey, ngibonile mkabuzu mama ubonga lethi. Ngiyabuzwa khala lesikhathi hayi ase ulethe.
Leadership, thank you very much. Yeah, no man, I need to come to Nelspruit very soon.
Yeah, if you don't, I'll come to Joburg, leadership.
Please.
Thank you, my leader.
You need to get Zilalini. Invite me, guys. Invite me. When I'm fourth generation Soweto, I don't have a home. I'm homeless. Have a bond. 4 generations Soweto.
Invite me.
Yes.
This Noctula, please text me privately. Let me get your numbers.
Okay, I don't know how to do these things. Maskolo makes us a Sandile.
Not a problem. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you. Siyabulela, siyabonga, rialebuha. Thank you very much.
Aluta. Abantu abasafuna ukuhamba.
Hayi tshelile ukuthi akusho ingoma bhuti. Hayi Let us compose ingoma yakho namhlanje. You must not be formal. You must not allow white people to do this to us. You must sing, you must be fine, you must be jubilant.
Yes.
What you have done, my leader, is really great. Your stamina, I told you, you have really assisted us. That consistency. This is an entire school. Then we'll meet and we'll talk. But what you have done is really great. So we must sing and be jubilant. Allow us to close this thing nice. Chikitshela ngamatshe.
Yeah. Nasekhaya siyabonga ngoba if abavuma ngekhaya ngabe ngelinye ilanga sithi siyakokota bathi no host.
Yeah,
You
but
know?
no host.
Bathi no host. You know, sisasigijima sithi 6 o'clock
Awe asane akuyasha kuyashe asaniya kwamanye amazwe asazi kwenze njani kuyasha kuyashe asaniya kwamanye amazwe asazi kwenze njani kuyashe asaniya kwamanye amazwe asazi kwenze njani kuyasha kuyashe azaniya kwamanye amazwe asazi kwenze njani izwe lethu
Africa.
kwamanye amazwe asazi kwenze njani kuyasha kuyashe azaniya kwamanye amazwe sobukwe kuyasha kuyashe azaniya kwamanye amazwe asazi kwenze awe kuyasha kuyashe azaniya izwe lethu
Mayibuye. Black love.
I